We are on Daf Yud Dalet Amud Beis.
Yud Gimel.
Oh, sorry, Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Right. So we had seen a kasha that. Good morning. We're on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. We're in the middle of discussing a question that we had said that someone who purchases a behemoth from a guy during their holidays, the Chamu Misakin, that you have to be ma'aker the animal. And we said that what does ti'aker mean? It means to hamstring it, to hobble the animal. But then we brought Lagabi someone who purchased if someone was makdish or machrim, bisman hazeh, if he was makdish an animal, we say behemoth yaker, and we explained bezu ikur noel delos b'fanev mesa me'ala, that you nail it in and you let it die. So why does one brayso say ti'aker means to hobble it, and the other one says to lock it up so it should die? Rabbi, so Abaye said Mishum Bizoyin Kachin. Rava, so that's what we're up to Rava's teretz. Rava Amar, 6-7 lines from the top. Rava Nation Nira Kamatal Mum Bekachin. He says that in the second case where someone was makdish an animal bisman hazeh, where you're not able to use it as kachin, there's no Beis Hamikdash to use it for bedek abayis, says you can't bring it as a carbon. So, but there is a isser that one is not allowed to make a mum bekachim. Zak Gemara. So that therefore, Rava says, when you do this, it's as if you're making a mum bekachim. It says kol mum lo yi'abai. This is similar to that. Gemara nira mum ma'aliyahu. What do you mean it's nira? It appears like this is your makdish the animal. The problem is the Chum said you shouldn't be makdish because it's not going to be able to be used. You're going to have an animal sitting around kachim that's eventually going to be a nichshel. But now it's kachim, so when you make a mum in it, it's a mum. So it should be over the isser. It shouldn't appear as if you're being over the isser. So tomorrow, Hanimel is man shebeis hamikdash kaim the chazi lakrav. He says no. The din of mum lo yi'abai is only bisman beis hamikdash, that it's capable of being brought as a carbon. Hashta delichazi lakrava less lamba. But bisman hazeh, that in the end you're unable to bring it as a carbon. This pasuk of mum lo yi'abai does not apply. It only applies when the animal could potentially be a carbon.
So where are we?
We are on the Yud Gimel Amud Beis, about 10 lines down. Frek the Gemara, v'lahavi kamatel mum babal mum. The Gemara says that you're saying that there's no din of mum lo yi'abai bisman hazeh because it's lo chazi lakrava. But we know that there's an isser of making a bal mum in an animal that's already a bal mum. The animal has a mum. We paskin that you cannot make an additional mum in it. Also, that even though it's not chazi lakrava, obviously, if it's a bal mum already, it can't be born as a carbon, and even so, it's us to make an additional mum. So why is that any different than making a mum in kachim bisman hazeh? And with the Gemara, bal mum nehidu lechazi legufe ledami chazi. Says no, a bal mum still has a higher level of kedusha than a bal mum than an animal kachim bisman hazeh, because although the animal itself cannot be brought as a carbon, but you could sell it and then use the proceeds of that sale and to be given to bedek abayis or for kachim, for a carbon. That it's not only can you not give it to the bedek abayis now or use it as a carbon, it can't even be sold and used because obviously there's no Beis Hamikdash now. There's no capability of using it in either case. Sagt Gemara, Ashkechei Rabbi Yoina, Rabbi Eloi, the Koya Pischa de Tzur. Rabbi Yoina found Rabbi Eloi that he was standing at the entranceway to the town of Tzur. I think we saw earlier an example also. Tzur was a place that had a big market where there was Avodas Kechavim going on. Amalei, Katani Behema Tiakar. We had learned, it's not that it's negay over here, it's not what happened, they were just talking and learning. Amalei, Katani Behema Tiakar. He said, we learned that a behema that's purchased from an Ovid Kechavim during the holidays, tiaker, you have to hobble it. Eved mai. What's the din about an Eved? If you purchase an Eved, Eved Yisrael loika miboil. Certainly an Eved Yisrael is a yid. There's a sakana in hobbling an animal. We certainly would not do that to a yid. A yid is a izzy. You can't harm a yid. And it's certainly you can't put him into matzav sakana. Ki kambayle eved kechavim. My the question was eved kechavim. Do you have the same takanas chachamim that a person shouldn't profit from when he was over and purchased during their holidays? Amalei my kami vayelach Tanya ha eved kechavim v'haroy behemedaka loy malim v'loy meridin. We said someone who was over certain types of avodah zara. Meaning, it clearly doesn't mean someone who's over avodah zara who's chayiv misa. It must be some one of the attenuated types of over avodah zara. Or roy behemedaka there's a takana that people are not allowed to be roya, work as a shepherd for behemedaka, because you're not allowed to have them in Eretz Yisrael because it's inevitably leads to theft. They're going to end up grazing on other people's lands. The Chachamim were very, very machmir on the roya behemedaka because they're like institutionalized theft. So such people, loy malin, you can't. Loy malin, if they fall into a pit and they're going to die, you don't have to take a positive, affirmative action to get them out of the pit. You can let them stay there. But you also cannot put them into such a situation. So the Gemara says, if we don't allow we don't allow you to go ahead and physically put him into a situation where he's going to die or he's going to be in sakana, certainly a Eved Kechavim, who's just a poor guy. It's not his fault. He wasn't Eved Kechavim, even though he's called an Eved. He's just an Eved, but he was purchased in a way that it can perpetuate Eved Kechavim, Avodah Zara. Certainly, we will not allow you to affirmatively put him into a situation where you're endangering his health. Meaning, we had said, I think what the Gemara means is, we had said before that above the ankle of the animal, so to speak, makes him into a treifa. Below only hobbles him, but there's certainly an element of pikuach nefashos involved. So just like we say, we don't throw someone into a pit, even if he was Oived Avodah Zara, certainly we won't take anything take a positive action of hobbling Eved that will have some sakana involved in it, just because as a takana to avoid people buying things in a marketplace that has avodah zara. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah Zara Katani loicha mehem behema avoda mushvachis. We said that you can buy from them. When we said we were machalik, we said there's an afkamina. We had the machlekes of nasim, the rabbanon. We said you can buy from the stores in the marketplace durable goods, things that a person is not happy to give up, like an animal, an avodim, and shvachas. Aved Yisrael, aved kechavim. When we say you can't buy an aved, doesn't mean only an aved Yisrael, because as we're going to see, because the aved Yisrael is obviously it's good to get the Yisrael out of the hands of Goyim, or does it mean even Avid Kechavim? Well, we don't have that motivation. Amalei Mistava Avid Yisrael. L'chayr Avid Yisrael. The Avid Kechavim L'maymi Bayalei. What's the purpose of getting Avid Kechavim out of servitude? Let him be Avid there. We don't know. It's not our job to redeem all, to bring all Avodim and bring them into Klal Yisrael. Says no. If you could buy it every kechavim, then he has to do a milah, and he becomes mechuyev in all the mitzvahs like a woman does. So you're doing a good thing when you buy him. Amar Ravashi, Alto behema my machnas tachas kamfa eschina ikka. Ravashi asked the obvious question. We gave a list of a bunch of things, and then we said behema and eved, and we said land. So now all of a sudden we're starting that the eved has to be a case where there's some benefit to redeeming the eved, and now we're discussing whether it only applies to Eved Yisrael or even applies to Eved Kechavim. But this whole question of accomplishing something with this redemption is only relevant to an Eved, but we listed a bunch of other things that you could buy. We said you could buy land. Land is you're not being machnas et tanchas kamfei eshchina, even though I would point out the Chumash. In Chumash we say by Avram when he bought the land from Haran, it says he was mal of the land. The Rashi says that when it goes from a guy to a yid, it elevated the land. But I don't think that's the Gemara is talking about. So Gemara Elamishum. So Elamai. So it must be a different reason. It's not that we're trying to elevate the Eved and Eved Yisrael to get him out of being in servitude, or Eved Kechavim to elevate him to be a yid. Elamishum milutayu. The reason why it's allowed, and this is really a different version of what we had said before, that a durable good, a guy regrets giving it up. And this is, us Jews are very strategic. We know getting assets is always a good thing. You just accumulate real estate because you know it's going to go up. So anything that's durable, that's traded for money, is always, in the end, a bad deal for the person who's giving up a durable good. So it's helpful. We want to diminish the assets of Avdei Kechavim by making them less economically powerful, by buying their durable goods. So that's what it is. So just like we say by the karka, we want to be memayit the Avdei Kechavim. Hachanami the memayit the memati shari. So too, the Gabi buying Eved Kechavim doesn't have to be Eved Yisrael, could also be Eved Kechavim. It's mutter because you're being memayit them. Rabbi Yaakov Zavin Sandalo, Rav Yirmiyah Zavin Pisa. Rabbi Yaakov bought a sandal that was something not important that people use up. Rav Yirmiyah bought pisa, which is bread, pita bread. Amalei chad l'charei, Yisma Ovid Rabcha, Hachi. Yisma, are you an orphan? Did your Rebbe do like this? Buying things from the Goyim. Amalei idach Yisma Ovid Rabcha. The other one said back then, what about you? You're doing the same thing. Ovid Rabcha Hachi. So let's see the Rashi. Rabbi Yirmiyah Zav Pisa. Rashi, the Taisvis. Rabbi Yirmiyah Zav Pisa. He has a few interesting questions. What is he doing with this bread? You're not allowed to eat pasav avdei kechavim. So there's no Jewish baker. Then in a place where there's no Jewish baker, you're allowed to buy from pas palter. He's not going to eat it. He's going to give it to his behei, his Aved Kechavim, who's allowed to eat it, or to his behema. I don't know, why is he allowed to give it to his Aved Kechavim? Isn't he mechuyev in mitzvahs?
I was thinking.
Loisa says, yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
I mean, it's a chumrah that we. I mean,
You're saying
it's called kosher.
takana doesn't apply to Ovid Gechavim, but Ovid Gechavim are mechuyev, just like we always say, like an isha. There's no thing that an isha is allowed to eat pas palter as opposed to a man.
Pas
So why
palter
would it have to be different?
isn't pas palter for Kervis with the Goyim? The guy's already a guy.
He's not. Why are you saying he's a guy? He's on his way to being a Jew. He's mechuyev in the mitzvahs. In all the leisa says like a woman. He's just not mechuyev in mitzvahs say shazman grom. So I'm curious about that. I have to look at my Masifta Gemara, see what he says. Maybe I'll look in the Rambam, the halachas. Acham b'Yushalmi gabi hayov d'shanya he mishum chayin nefesh mashma l'tzorcha kani. He said that even so, the Yushalmi seems to be mashma. The problem is that he says it's chayin nefesh, so he's talking about for the person himself. Also law v'ataloi lakachta gluska miyamecha amle shani he mishum chayin nefesh. Okay, v'im toimer v'alei pas davar she'em miskayim hu v'amin l'el davar she'em miskayim ein loicha mehem. You're not allowed to buy something that's not miskayim. So generally, how are they saying that you're not being mekayim the takana of your rebbe? This is l'chayra din. He says that pas, the whole point of like we just said, that it's sort of a mush of that a durable good. We said before that it's something that a guy doesn't want to give up. And we explained sort of on this Amid that's because it diminishes, it makes them less have less assets, and therefore it makes them less influential. So he says pas is similar to a durable good. It's like land or an eved, that since it's so easily bought and sold, when a person has it, when he sells it, it's a davar chashuv, and there's always people who are looking to buy bread. So he doesn't feel like he lost his ability to produce, because it's something that's very sellable. Okay. So it's weiter in the Gemara. So they asked each other. So it's something that it's not Ikra din, but L'cheri said, your Rebbe would not have wanted you to do this. So Gemara, the Gemara says that really this was purchased from a balabayas. So the whole issue that we had said of buying in the marketplace was only buying from a tager who has to pay meches to the Adegecham. Each one thought that he purchased it from a tager, and they didn't realize that each one had bought from a balabayas on which there's no benefit accruing to the Avoda Zara. The Amar Rabba Breder Chia Rabba Lo Shana B'Lekech Min HaTager the Shakli Michsamine B'Lekech Balabayis Lo Shakli Michsamine Potter. If you buy from a non-official, someone who's not a store but just a person selling in his house, so he doesn't end up paying, doesn't have to pay to the Avoda Zara, it's mut. Amar Rabba Breder Chia Rabba El Malay HaYir Rav Yochanan and Hazimna Ba'asher the Shakli Michsa. He's Rabbi Abba Breder of Chia says if Rabbi Yochanan was around over here, where they take the obviously the way it works is taxes always increase; they never go down. So eventually, it came to a point where everyone was classifying themselves as a balabayas and avoiding the taxes. So the priest started to take tax also from the balabayas. So he said, if he was around today, Rabbi Yochanan was down today, he would ask her even from buying from balabayas. So if so, inu hechi zaven, balabaya. So is ilu hechi zaven. So how did these two Talmidei Chachamim, Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yirmiyah, how did they even buy from a balabayas? So tomorrow, the balabayas sheina kavua zaven. It was not just stam a balabayas, where someone has a basement store. It's a balabayas that mamish, doesn't have a store at all. He just sells occasionally. Sometimes he has extra, and he'll sell if he sells to his friends. So such a thing, even now, the Avoda Zara, the the priests who were in charge of collecting the taxes, they didn't go after individual people. Zok the Mishnah. These are things that are also to sell to a guy. And this is a new topic, so to speak, within the theme of Avoda Zara, that you cannot sell these things because these are directly used in Avoda Zara. Like, I'm assuming, let's say, you couldn't sell a Buddha. Like that's mamish, like a little one of those little figurines. You couldn't sell it, obviously. I guess that's more basic. You're not allowed to even own such a thing. But something that imagining that Christians were Avoda Zara, you wouldn't be allowed to sell the wafer that they use in communion because they're going to use it for Avoda Zara. So these are things that we know are going to be used for Avoda Zara directly. It's trabulin, ubnei shuach, upatutros. And trabulin we're going to see is a kind of tree, and bnei shuach. And these things the Gemara is going to say more about what it is. Upatutros are the stems. And the Gemara is going to explain it means those things when they're attached to their stems. These trees are going to say Ishtrabulin is an acorn. So an acorn, it doesn't mean a loose acorn. It means an acorn while still attached to the tree. And Bnei Shuach is a different kind of tree. So also when it's still attached to its source, that's when it's used by Avodas Kecham. Levina. Levina is Levina that we use in the Ketairis. They would use Lahavdal for the Avodah Zara. The Tarnagal Halavan, and a white rooster, that was also used for Avodah Zara. Rabbi Yehuda did Chaylik. He says it's not always usher to sell a white tarnagal to a guy during their holidays. He says you could sell a white tarnagal if you're selling a whole lot of tarnagalin and one of them happens to be white, so there's no indication that he's buying it bedafka for avodah zarah. But if it is on its own and therefore usher, you can cut off one of its claws and then you could sell it, because like we've seen before, the Goyim stole their halachas of how they bring their karbanas from us, but only to a certain extent. They'll use a balmum, but they won't use an animal that's mechusar ever. So by taking off a claw, it becomes a mechusar ever, and they won't use it for avodah zarah. So like the Mishnah said, they don't bring something that's missing an aver for avodah zarah, and therefore you can safely sell it. And everything else, if you sell it stam, it's mutter. If you're mafarish, it's also more to explain what he did stam and what he was mafarish. Tav, even a good date tree, the chatzav and niklaf or niklas. Also, we're going to say what chatzav and niklas are. Limkar la'avodas kecham. He says these additional things are also used for avodah zarah. So my it's trabulin. What is it? Trabulin turnisa. Turnisa, Rashi says min erez v'hishita. It's like a type of tree, the shita tree. Bramini haisif al chasem v'trabulin muchsin ubnei shuach. We learned. Rashi says this is we learned in a brayso, the Gabi Shmita, that included in the Isser of Shmita are al chasen itztrabulin muchsen ubnei shuach. One of the things that we include as being aser in Shvius is itztrabulin. Lisa al kadaitach itztrabulin turnisa. If you say itztrabulin is this type of turnisa tree, turnisa misa v'shvius. Is turnisa aser in Shvius v'atnan zeh klal kol yesh leikar yesh leishvius or kol she'en leikar ein leishvius. Only things that have a root that lasts from 1 year to the next have a din shvius. But things like tornisa, which is a kind of tree that the Gemara knows what it is, which doesn't, its roots don't last from year to year, are not subject to Shemitah. This is obviously a very complicated or it's not as it seems, because we know like all kinds of things are subject to shvius. All types of plants are subject to shvius, even though they are not perennials. They don't last from year to year. So it talks about the Mefarshim explain that that it's talking about things that that it, they're things that are trees that have to that a ternisa is a kind of tree that has to be replanted, and that it doesn't mean that it's always the case that anything that has to be replanted is not going to be subject to shvius. It means that there are some kinds of plants that you cannot use. You cannot use the actual plant on shvius. You can't work the ground for them on shvius, but they're not these kind of things like these kinds of things that are not replanted every year are not going to have the same restrictions about what you can do with them on shvius. Okay, but in any case, that's the Gemara's kasha. Ternisa l'chayra is something that doesn't stay over from year to year. So how could you say it has shvius? Alon Rav Safar perid arza. He says that it's trabulin is not ternisa. It's the fruit of a arza, of a eres, of a tree. It means like an acorn. It's talking about the acorn of a tree, of these trees. B'nai shuach, Amar Rabbi Barchan, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, te'eni chivarasa. White dates are b'nai shuach, that those are used in Avoda Zara. Upetutros, Amar Rabbi Barchan, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, petreseim shanu. It doesn't mean actual petutros, doesn't mean the stems. This is just an explanation of the first two things we had said, Ishtrabulin and b'nai shuach. It means only these white figs and these acorns while they're still attached to whatever their branches or their stems. Then we said levina, Rav Yitzchak Shimon Lakish, levina zaka. It has to be good levina, not coarse levina, which is not used for avodah zarah. Tana mikol meichel and chavila. All these things you could sell a large bundle. The kama chavila. How much is a large bundle? Here's Yehud ben Beseira. Ein chavira pchusa mishloishim. Manin. A bundle is 300 zuz. So it's a large bundle. Then you know that the person is not intending to use it for avodah zarah. You don't use such a large amount. He's buying it to sell. In fact, Mor says, so what? So you're selling a large bundle. So the guy's going to sell it, but eventually he's going to sell it to avodah zarah. So you're facilitating it's being used for avodah zarah. So why isn't it? Aren't you over for lifnei iver of facilitating avodah zarah? Amrabaya lifnei mafkadinan alifnei de lifnei loy mafkadinan. The isser of lifnei iver only applies when you are directly causing someone to be machshel, but indirectly, where you're being machshel someone that he will then be over on lifnei iver, is not aser. So it's an interesting thing, right? You would think if lifnei iver is aser, why should the din of lifnei iver be any less than every other mitzvah, right? You could say lifnei iver on tzitzis or on tefillin or on eating kosher, but on the din of lifnei iver, there's no such din of lifnei iver, even though you're going to cause this guy to resell it.
Is there lifnei iver for a guy to begin with?
Yeah, we're saying the problem of selling it to them is they're going to use it for avodah zarah. You're not the one who's being over avodah zarah, but we're saying you're being over. You're saying, because you're saying the person who's selling it now is lifnei iver. I hear what you're saying. Maybe the guy doesn't have lifnei iver. So, going hacha the high. Let's see Rashi. Lifnei the lifnei going ha hacha the high vade lav lava. It's gechaven kaboy. Shun lo izdam and iu lachin and miktori lemaf gedin and lemeser. Yeah. Right. So you're saying that the only issue would be to do it directly, but to cause someone else.
Well, the Rashi before this says that he explains the lifnei iver. I'm going to
read it. Yeah. V'chol hani the asrinan l'zvuni l'hu mishum lifnei iver. It's in the Michshel. The ben noyach muzer al avodas kechavim. That's about the avodas kechavim. But he's asking that the guy is not muzer on lifnei iver. So I think Rafal's right. And my question, my analysis was not right. The real analysis is it considered lifnei iver that you're going to cause ultimately that someone's going to be over avodas kechavim, but the guy is being over on lifnei iver. L'chayri doesn't have a din of lifnei iver.
There's no lifnei iver from goy to goy.
There's no even for a guy. He does for whatever. Even if a guy causes a Jew to do an isser, it's still he only has a sheva mitzvah b'nayich. It's not one of the sheva mitzvah b'nayich, so he can cause stumbling blocks from there today till tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to stop over here. It's good we have a little cushion, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, what time?
The same time, 7:15. I think if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Good.